We were going to have this party, called it the Bye-Bye Boobies Party.
And then I got a text from Heather, and it said, we need to cancel the party tonight.
Don't ask people what's going on while you're expressing care. They're telling the same thing over and over again, and it never gets better.
Nobody else could work out with you because I'm your workout partner. You did not get weaker. You didn't get weaker than me, which was really irritating. If you're gonna legitimately support somebody going through cancer, you have to know what their caregivers need also.
Kintsugi, which is the Japanese art of breaking a bowl and putting it back together with gold lines.
To her, this wasn't a medical procedure and she's not removing cancer. She was creating a masterpiece.
Jessica Rosenbaum is a licensed clinical psychologist. She helps parents understand how their children learn and how their children can learn well. But that's not why she's here today. Jessica's my best friend. We met 25, 26 years ago when we were both pregnant with our first children. She's been by my side through not just all raising the kids, but through my sister's cancer journey and through my cancer journey. Jessica was always one of the first people I called after my twice annual I don't have cancer day scans. She was one of them alongside my mother, my sister, and my husband. Jessica actually came up with the first happiness tripwire when she suggested that after those scans, why don't we have a girls' breakfast and something fun to look forward to? So I'm very excited to have her here and share the perspective of being that close friend, sister by choice, the one who gets the call you never want to hear. So Jessica, thank you for everything you did when I was going through cancer. Thank you for being my friend. I'm going to cry. Thank you for everything. I can't express how much your friendship means to me. But let's go to cancer because that's easier to talk about. So tell me, I mean, you knew the scans were showing something. You knew something was up. And I think it was Heather who called you because we had to cancel a party that we had planned for that night, which we'll talk about in a minute. But tell me what went through your mind. What was that moment like for you?
So the moment was a series of moments. And I knew you were getting your results. And I knew you were supposed to be having surgery the next day. And we had this party planned because, you know, that's you, right? Happiness tripwire, but also like, hey, there's going to be this big thing. So let's celebrate it. I'm going to make sure I never get cancer. So I knew you were getting the results that day. And I didn't get a call from you. And I didn't get a text from you. But I also wasn't really thinking about it because I knew I would.
Mm-hmm.
And then I got a text from Heather. And it said, we need to cancel the party tonight. Let's talk. To which I checked my texts. I texted back, oi. I actually was surprised that's what I texted
Right,
back.
we
I
thought
it
there
would
was an
start with
expletive,
F.
yeah.
Yeah. So we connected a few minutes later, and she told me what was going on. You were at the time talking to Neil.
Not yet.
Oh, maybe you were on your way.
Right. We were going to tell Neil in person. And so you got a phone call and my sister got a phone call and we walked the 5 blocks to Neil's office.
Right. So your sister didn't get a phone call yet because what Heather told me was, I need you to cancel that party.
Right.
So what went through my mind immediately was, how do I cancel a party without saying Joelle has cancer?
Right.
Because I, in 20 years, have learned what I call your order of operations, which isn't really the right metaphor, but I knew publicly anyway, it needed to be Neil first, and then either your sister or your folks. I figured probably in this situation, it was your sister before your folks. Mm-hmm. And then your kids, but your kids and my kids over the years have understood that sometimes we know things about each other before they do.
Right.
So it was really navigating the, how do I convey the message in a way that clearly says, no party, don't show up, but also doesn't say, oh, and by the way, it's because she has cancer, but people would make of it what they would.
Right.
So I sent the email. And I immediately got a text from your sister.
Ah.
Immediately, who, and people who listen to your podcast know, I know Tracy. Uh-oh.
Okay, let's try that again. Immediately.
I immediately got a text from your sister who said, what's up? And I said, she wants to tell you herself, but you're right.
All right.
and she'll call you next.
Right.
Or I think I said, she's with Neil. She'll call you next. And she's like, got it.
Right. She
Um,
might have let go of the expletives at that point.
She might have, but not to me,
Okay.
that I recall anyway. So that was how that went.
All right. So we were going to have this party.
Yes.
We called it the Bye-Bye Boobies Party.
You did.
Okay.
You're the marketer.
And we planned it for the night before I was supposed to have this preventative surgery, right? When I told you I want to have a Bye-Bye Boobies party, like, did you just think I was nuts? Like,
No, I thought you were you.
well, what does that mean? Like, I mean,
Of course you do. Of course you do. You're having this surgery. You're going to be out of commission-ish for 6 weeks or so. But you wanted to celebrate that you weren't going to have cancer. You'd been talking about,
Yeah.
right? I was with you in the process of when you had given birth to Ariel and our OB said to you, are you done having children?
Right.
And I remember the phrase, at least that you told me from her, which was, I want your ovaries.
Right.
So I've been with you thinking about this, deciding when you were going to get tested for the BRCA gene, deciding when, if you were going to have the surgery, and the back and forth of but I don't have cancer. Why would I do this if I
Right.
don't have cancer? And then the process of then deciding, okay, I'm going to do this.
Yeah.
So of course you were going to celebrate. That's who you
So
are.
I really liked them.
There's that.
And they did, I mean, mine did good work.
They did.
They fed those 3 kids prodigiously. But, you know, they did good work. I thought they needed to be appreciated for their service before they were unceremoniously lopped off.
Fair. So yeah, and
You also were so excited because the kind of surgery I was having, the reconstruction, includes basically a tummy tuck because they use fat from your belly to make your new breasts. All she wanted to do was know when she could bounce quarters
oh, that's true.
off my belly,
Absolutely.
which I don't think we've actually tried.
No, we should.
We should. We definitely
Totally.
should do that.
100%.
All right. So we tell people, and, you know, I don't know how much I've shared that story in the past, but, you know, when I told my kids, we were at our dining room table, that's when I texted Jessica and one other friend and said, you may tell your kids who were also home from college. And once the okay went out, my kids know, her kids called my kids, particularly the boys, to take them away and process this together because I wasn't just their friend's mom. I'd been with them since they were born, close to it. So I was important to them, and they weren't having conversations their entire life about cancer, whereas in my family, that was a not uncommon topic to come up. So it was amazing watching generations figure out how to support each other.
And it wasn't one way. I mean, I remember, I don't know why I was in my office when the 3, what we call the middle kids,
Right.
ended up in the same place. And they were loud, which is not unusual. They were always loud. But in this situation, it was a little surprising that they were loud. But it wasn't just my kids supporting your kids.
Right.
It was very much bidirectional. I mean, jokingly, I one time, when I wasn't thinking very carefully, put on camp forms, you know, when they say the extra person and, you know, to contact in an emergency, and I put your name down. And when it said, you know, who is this person? I was like, oh, second mom. And I'm like, wait,
That means something.
that means something different. And I crossed it out and I'm like, close family friend or whatever. But they really, they really were supporting each other bidirectionally.
Yeah, processing something hard.
Yeah.
And for them, unexpected. So when all this settled, and it was rather quick because I did send out a message to, I don't know, roughly 200 to 300 people that night saying, I'm not having the surgery. I do have triple negative breast cancer. I don't know what the treatment plan is. I do need an oncologist. Please don't send me advice. Please don't send me stories. Please don't send me Google links.
So actually, you didn't send it out that night.
I didn't?
No, you did not.
Oh,
You left it vague and ambiguous that night because one of the things we talked about is you were considering saying something on Facebook. And I was like, whoa,
No,
let's
yeah.
take a break.
that was a good call.
But also, you had so many things that had to happen that night, or that had to get canceled or changed or whatever. And And I don't remember who had the presence of mind. It might have been Heather. It might have been you. It might have been me. It was probably Heather or Tracy would be my guess to say, hang on, you don't actually have to hurry through this because now there's this period of time that you've spoken about before. You did send it soon after.
No, I sent it because I didn't want people to call Neil the next day and ask how the surgery was going. Because one of the things about being the caregivers is people ask you constantly, how are they doing? What's going on? And it's a drag. It's a drag to say the same not great thing over and over and over again. So I kind of wanted to rip the Band-Aid off and say, like, this isn't happening. So I might have done it late that night. But at some point I did because I definitely didn't want them calling the next day.
Yeah, I don't know the specific timing. I know that that whole detailed message was actually on CaringBridge. So that might be how it happened, is that I know you asked me to set up the CaringBridge.
I did.
And I sent the initial, but that was also after you had told at least some subset of people
the
what
family,
it was.
right. With the family, and family, I'm including your family, Regina's family, like the family with the kids who were going to help support each other. They all knew before that. My parents knew.
Right.
Neil's parents knew. Neil's mom knew. And then we did the CaringBridge. And I think part of the message was, don't ask people what's going on. Go to the CaringBridge.
Yes.
We will keep it up to date.
Yes.
Because curiosity, it's great. And it's a wonderful way to express that you care, is to say, you know, hey, I'm calling to see how you're doing. But on the other side, while you're expressing care, they're telling the same thing over and over again, and it never gets better. It's just not a good story. So CaringBridge, caringbridge.org is the site we used, and it gives you a good amount of privacy controls. So I ultimately never put it on Facebook until 2 years later. People were sort of surprised. So when we sent out the CaringBridge and whatever to people, we said, we don't know yet what we're going to need in help, but we know we're going to need it. And Jessica is going to be the coordinator. So that wasn't just like, oh, here's a list for the meal train. You did a lot more in shaping that and even coaching me. I hope you might talk about like how you thought, how do we make this support, corral this wonderful outpouring of love and support into something that is really helpful and not demanding on other people, but also not making us crazy.
So one thing I realized when we decided to do this, and I was like trying to think about the timeline, we already had the meal train set up because you were supposed to have surgery.
Right, right.
So in terms of the more immediate, you're dealing with, I got to find an oncologist. I got to figure out if I'm going to go to UCSF or I'm going to go to Stanford and who I'm going to deal with and when is it. You already had 3 meals a day, a week being brought to your house. And I think actually the 3 meals a week was a big thing we even talked about, right?
We did.
How often are we going to do this? Because you don't need, on top of everything else, to be cleaning out your refrigerator on a regular basis. So there was that piece of it. Having a little bit of an honest conversation about who actually can cook. It's worthwhile. It's
Sorry if you
worthwhile.
were people that got nixed out for that.
Or encouraged to, get
Do something
gift
else.
card.
Right.
So I think that was really just a deep dive in knowing the rhythm of your life and what would be helpful to you, what would be helpful to Neil. I think a big piece that might get left out is recognizing if you're going to legitimately support somebody going through cancer, you have to know what their caregivers need also.
That's right.
And so meal planning is not your favorite thing when you're feeling great. So that was the easy one to bite off before. And our community also is incredible at
Very
showing up with
generous.
food.
Very generous.
So that's super easy. And then the other things really were both master planners. You mentioned on a recent podcast your cancer obliteration calendar that you created, and you shared it with me. And I also love a good calendar. And so it was this moment of calm, but it also gave me a window into when are you going to need support?
Right. But I want to hold up. The reason I did that, it was actually anxiety management for me, right? Is I wanted to kind of get the size of this thing. And it probably isn't right. Like, would the first protocol work? Would there only be 12 cycles of chemo? Would there be 11? in my case, because of the gene, there was never going to be less than 12. But if it didn't work, there were cycles of AC. And if that didn't work, there's yet more. But I wanted to get the carbotaxol and the AC on a calendar. And they told me you'd need 3 or 4 weeks after the chemo ends to regain your strength before surgery. But basically, I was plotting, when is this over? Where's the light at the end of the tunnel? Potentially. And I was okay with, there's no guarantee that that's the light at the end of the tunnel. There's no guarantees in life. But the amount of stress it took out to just see, oh, it's January 9th. By my birthday in September, if things go well, this is over, done and dusted, and I'm wakeboarding again. So then it became like, all right, it's 8 months, 9 months, maybe less.
Right.
And then I shared it with you, and I think I shared it with Tracy and with Heather and with Neil.
Well, and the funniest part is you shared it with Neil and he never looked at it.
Never.
Which is so apropos. And I mean, that speaks to the, you got to know who you're supporting, right?
And
because
how.
it didn't matter that Neil didn't look at the calendar because Neil never looked at a calendar. And so that didn't change anything.
Right.
It didn't change anything for how we support each other. It just didn't change anything, not in a negative or a positive way.
Right.
But I think what the calendar did for me, other than also reduce my anxiety and know that I could wakeboard on my birthday since they're near each other.
Apparently, this is a big deal for us.
It is.
We wakeboard on our birthdays.
Definitely.
Not bad when you're in your mid-50s, people.
So it was that, and then really figuring out, okay, so you're going to be going to UCSF. Is that something I should do?
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, well, no, actually, I don't need to drive you to UCSF. Somebody else can drive you. And then it became the like, who are we going to allow to drive you? And who do you want to be with when you might feel terrible?
But it turned into a real happiness tripwire because we had a variety of people who would drive me there. Some would stay. Some would come at lunch. Some would go because of the cold capping, my infusions were 5 or 6 hours long. And then if I was seeing doctors the same day, you'd be talking about a 7 or 8 hour experience, although I was very glad to have it on the same day. Like, it just, Wednesday was cancer day and the other 6 days of the week, if I could, it wasn't. But I got these visits with wonderful people, and we'd talk about all kinds of things, and it was something to look forward to. Like, this week I get to visit with Sean. This week I get to visit with Molly. And I so appreciated the fact that you knew that would probably be something that made me happy, but you also knew I'd only want people that if I felt like crap, I could say, could we not talk?
Right. Or knowing how extraordinarily good you are at sleeping. Wouldn't be offended when you got in the car and fell asleep, whether it was on the way to an infusion or on the way home.
I don't think I ever did that to people. I did do it in the infusion center.
On that. I wouldn't have bet on that, though.
I started telling people, like, you probably don't want to stay because they give me the Benadryl and I pass out.
Yeah. Yeah. But I think also one of the big pieces was I talked to you about who would you want those people to be. And there were very particular people you actually wanted to have some time with, not necessarily private time where nobody else could hear it, but actual quality time.
And it was.
Yeah.
It really was. And, you know, some people might say, I just want to ride. I don't want anyone to sit with me in the infusion center because, you know, you got tubes coming out and I put on a cold cap. I looked a little bit like a strange astronaut. So you can feel, I mean, I had ice mittens and ice socks. Like, you're definitely in a vulnerable state. And I chose to say, I look a little ridiculous, but this is my battle armor. Like these silly things and my aromatherapy locket and my fluffy slippers that I got to wear when I wasn't wearing ice socks, they were my armor. But I had to be okay with people seeing me not as a polished, capable, professional person, but as a vulnerable person who's, you know, working very hard to obliterate an unwelcome invader.
Yeah.
So, you know, there's something else we never stopped doing. Like, and, you know, this dialogue, we have been working out, I think it's 17 or 18 years.
So when our daughters were 2, the youngest.
It was when they were 2?
They're 19 now.
Didn't we do it after the boys were born for a while too?
Yes, but not in a reliable way.
Okay.
And when they were 2,
the girls are the youngest, everybody.
You called me and you said,
this would suck less if you do it with me.
I'm doing this boot camp.
Yep.
And it would suck less if you did it with me. And I was
It's really a great marketing invitation.
And yes, the idiot over here was like, okay,
Right.
which happens. You
Right.
push me out of my comfort zone pretty regularly. So yes, that's how that started happening. But yeah, I mean, that was part of the how did I orchestrate this whole thing was really, are we still going to do that?
Well, and it was really important to me to keep doing it. And my doctor said I could. I want to pause for a second and let people know what I mean by we're working out. This wasn't, we're power walking. Nothing wrong with power walking. One
It
of us,
actually hurts me, but yeah.
okay, but
whatever.
we were known to go for a walk every so often, or it wasn't a soul cycle class or something like this. We had gotten into doing Olympic weightlifting or doing heavy weightlifting and explosive movements and jumping and what might be called intensity training intervals. And it was all programmed by professional trainers. But 3 times a week, we were doing these 1-hour intense. We did CrossFit for a while. We stopped because we found that it was making us get hurt. But they're CrossFit-like. They're just CrossFit for people who are a little more injury prone, like my friend over here. But my doctor said okay. And we did make one modification to our training, but we worked out 3 times a week in the home gym, lifting weights, doing the explosive aerobic movements that I didn't like, and being together for an hour. You want to tell them what the compromise? You made 2 compromises to accommodate me, which I appreciate.
I wonder if we're thinking of the same too.
Who
So
knows?
we pushed it to 7 a.m.,
Right? Because usually we were doing it at 6 or 6:30.
right? And we always did it at your house.
Which was amazing because I could just kind of roll out of bed and she was driving 10 minutes each way in order to work out with me. Usually we trade off and we work out at each, one at one house, one at the other, one at one. But for the entire duration of my treatment, we did it at my house, which I really appreciate.
We also moved our morning walks to your house.
Yes. Which led to one of your favorite stories.
Yes.
So I'm going to let you give that. But what did it mean for you that we were able to keep working out?
So one of the things that it did for me, and we both know extremely well that I'm a huge control freak, both by personality and by anxiety. And so there was the anxiety of like, I'm not going to work out. What's that going to mean for me? But there was also the piece of how am I going to know you're okay? And so we didn't talk about this before on your schedule and on like how I orchestrated what other people did. But I actually chose and thought through, I don't want to be the one cooking your meals. Obviously, I would if I needed to. I don't want to be the one driving you. I could, right? I have a pretty flexible job where I can just take Wednesdays as not an in-office day. But other people could do that.
Right.
So nobody else could work out with you because I'm your workout partner.
You are.
And you'd been given clearance and actually encouragement. So there was that only I could do. But it also served my purposes, which is, how's this really going? Because you're brave and you're strong and you're vulnerable and you're good at sharing that, usually.
Right. But I'm not a big person. I'm not a big complainer.
You're not a big complainer. But also, you were going to tackle this.
Right.
And there was the possibility, at least in my head, that it could tackle you.
Yeah.
And I wasn't going to articulate that.
Sure.
But I was going to watch for it.
Right.
So in working out at your house 3 days a week, taking walks with you, I got to see how solid your physical abilities remained. Actually, it was annoying.
What was annoying exactly?
So, as you know, my one of the names I call you is Mighty Mouse. There are lots, but that's the one for this purpose. And what was astounding to see, and I think you actually were a little bit surprised by this too. You did not get weaker.
Not with strength.
You didn't get weaker. You didn't get weaker than me, which was really irritating. Physics are often in my favor because I am taller than you. And with the exception of a few things like core exercises and rowing, where physics really matter, you can always lift heavier, which is maddening. So I thought, hey, this is my chance. And it wasn't at all, which just was crazy. The one thing was endurance. That was the one thing that when part of our metabolic conditioning included running or jumping a bunch of times in a row, you just got really, really winded. And so, as you already mentioned, we have a personal trainer who does actually create these workouts, and he just backed off of that. But that was being there Monday, Wednesday, and Friday, having my eyes on you, watching you lift, watching you move, assured me as to where you were.
I think we did Monday, Tuesday, because I couldn't do Wednesdays. We made a shift on the timing.
You are right.
But yeah, and for me, it was cancer's not taking all of my life away. Cancer's not interfering. Like, I like that we exercise. I like what it makes me feel like. And doing something where you feel strong is the ultimate flipping the bird back at the cancer. Like, yeah, you're after me, but I'm after you. I only learned till afterwards how tremendously impactful exercise like that is on response to treatment and reduction of recurrence. And if you want, Dr. Jay Harness has 2 episodes on Kicking Cancer's Ass, and he gets into all the science on it. Net, you need to exercise 150 minutes a week. Doesn't matter what you do, just do it so that your heart rate gets up and you're breathing a little heavy. All right, so back to us.
Can I tell my favorite exercise story, though?
Oh, yeah, we should tell the favorite exercise story because, should I set the frame?
Sure.
Okay, so I'm very proactive about managing side effects or heading them off. And one of the side effects, you've heard about the cold capping, but you think chemo, you think nausea. And I had seen and been in the room with my mother and my sister with the horrible nausea and vomiting. And I just wanted to avoid that. So I did lots of things. I had the best medications intravenously. I had the best prescriptions. And with my doctor's endorsement, I also went to a dispensary and had no idea what to buy. And I said to them, what do I do? And they said, well, you're going to have to try a bunch of different ones, something I'd never done. So I had different configurations, different things. And again, I was proactive. So I found that steroid they gave me during chemo at about, I'd get that at 8 or 9 in the morning. By 4 o'clock in the afternoon, I was vibrating and I wouldn't be able to sleep. So at 9 o'clock, I'd try one of these THC options, having no idea what I was doing.
The CBD option.
No, it's the THC that gave you the part that made you laugh.
Okay.
And so I did this, and the next morning, Jessica and I have a workout.
Well, it was a walk.
It was a walk.
It was one of our walks, which normally, so we always bring our dogs. So, and we were walking around Burlingame instead of walking at the dog park. And you were loopy. And one of the things about us, one of the things you bring to me that I don't necessarily come by easily is laughter. And you were loopy, but you were game for walking. And neither of our dogs are particularly well-versed in walking straight. Mine's really bad at it. You were not that morning either. And it was hilarious. And you were all over the place physically. You were all over the place verbally. And I don't even know the number of times we ended up just stopping and laughing.
Right.
One of them we called our sons. Or I made a video. I think I made a video and we sent it to them, which neither of them responded, which was also fascinating. But it was just super funny. And it was a great way to approach what you were going through. It was like, you're experimenting because that's the smart thing to do. And you learned that maybe that was either a little too much or the wrong strand, whatever it was.
It's definitely too much.
It was the only time we stopped to buy bagels.
Yep.
Which we don't generally do.
Nope.
And I think you ate yours too. Yeah, you did on the way home.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. So yes, it was, again, though, it was a good way for me to feel better about what's going on with you.
Right. And to be clear, for this walk, I didn't have to drive anywhere.
No.
I wasn't unaccompanied. Like, I wasn't at any risk. It just...
Well, that's a little question. Sidewalks became a little bit more dangerous, but I can catch.
And I'm pretty good at staying upright.
Yeah.
I've got good balance. So, all right. So I want to... It was very funny. And she asked if she could video it. And I said, why not?
I mean, I don't know that we can call that informed consent, though, to be fair.
Fair enough.
But I only sent it to our sons.
And truth be known, it was funny.
It was hilarious.
It was funny. It was legal. It was funny.
Dogs were so confused.
Yeah. I was confused. So you didn't come, I don't think you came to chemos. You weren't one of the drivers.
Nope.
But I like to have another person in a lot of the doctor's appointments. And I asked you to come to one where we were going to meet with the reconstructive surgeon. And yeah, this is one of the things I think a lot of women, when you're looking at breast cancer, you worry about. Like, what will I look like afterwards? Will I look like myself at all? And you're putting a lot of trust in the hands of this reconstructive surgeon. And I invited you to come. And I don't know if you remember. Okay, so why don't you tell what that was about for you?
So, to your point earlier, you enjoy your girls.
They did a good job.
They did a good
Until
job.
they tried to kill me.
And that you liked how they looked, and you were knowledgeable about the surgery you were going to have, why you were going to have it, and obviously articulate about that with her. But one of the things that was immediate upon meeting Dr. Piper was she obviously a very well-respected doctor, but really an artist.
Mm-hmm.
And she was talking to you in intellectual ways, and then she started pulling out photos, no faces, photos, and kind of gesturing and describing and drawing.
Mm-hmm.
And it was like, oh, you're her canvas and she's an artist. And that's what this is. And it just was so obvious that to her, this wasn't a medical procedure, and that you were not just, she's not removing cancer. That was Dr. Osserman, but she also wasn't just coming in and filling holes or whatever. She was creating a masterpiece.
Mm-hmm.
And it seemed like that was her approach to this surgery of, I am going to create what you need and to be your new whole self. And it was amazing. It was also hilarious, which is always good. But I think to some degree, you were even like, there were times where your eyebrows were just jumping up.
Right.
It was like, oh. And then just, the detail of what you talk about when you're talking about a woman's body and what happens with nipples and where they go and how. And it was just like, wow, this is really about paintbrushes and paint and texture and
sculpting.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was, and that actually gave me a lot of comfort. And that reframe to, she's an artist, you're the canvas, when I ultimately took off all the bandages and had to see my body. And the first time you see your body, the scars are angry. They're red because they're scars, but they fade. And I was able to start to see them in the light of Kintsugi, which is the Japanese art of breaking a bowl and putting it back together with gold lines, gold mortar. And now you have something that is beautiful, but different. And you can't hide that it was changed, but it doesn't make it not precious and not beautiful. And it was really great to see it through your eyes as this is art, artistry.
Yeah.
Not just surgery.
Mm-hmm.
And I thought it was amazing. So if someone's listening who has a friend who's trying to figure out, what should I do? Am I ever going to feel like myself? What would you tell that friend to tell their friend who's going through it as we think about things like surgery or chemo, or how am I going to do this?
I think what you did so well, which made it very easy for me, is you were incredibly authentically yourself. And you don't really know how to be anything else.
I don't understand how that works.
Masks are not really your thing.
No.
But you knew what you needed. And since you are yourself all the time, I knew what that was after 25 years of being right next to you. So as much as we both are kind of hit the nail on the head, and if you need to hit it harder kind of people, it really was about being along for your journey and being who you needed and what you needed. It's just that to both of us, I believe, it was second nature.
Mm-hmm.
And it was easy to do. And I think when possible, I would encourage people for whom maybe it isn't as easy to be as open as they can be with people they have reason to trust, right? Obviously, you have to be careful about that. But I mean, we've both seen people go through things who have hidden it or who have not hidden it. And if that's what they needed to do to get through it for themselves, by all means.
Mm-hmm.
But I think part of what made it easier for you and for me was we tend to attack problems in similar ways.
Yep.
And so supporting you in doing that, that's just what we do.
And I also think we still could have fun. Like, I remember I got to the midpoint, 6 chemo treatments. And I remember calling you saying, I'm at the midway point. And your answer was, we should celebrate. And this was not planned. This was impromptu. And it turned out, I think it was like after dinner, we're going to go get some dessert. And I didn't want ice cream. It turns out bakeries aren't open at 8 o'clock at night or 9 o'clock at night. So we could have done ice cream, but we ended up finding this one Japanese bakery in San Mateo.
But we made this mistake. So we both had the same idea.
Right.
And we're very excited about it. And idiotically decided to bring our daughters, who were total pain in the butt for no good reason. And like the fact that the other places weren't open was nobody's fault, which they would give lip service to. But it was like, come on, pull it together. And yeah, they were in high school, whatever. But it was, that we should have just stuck to ourselves on that one.
Yeah, but it worked out. You know, a takeaway is when there's a will, there's a way. You will find something.
Well, and our kids have figured out that when we set our minds to something, that sometimes they just have to tolerate
You
it.
just go with it. All right. So we're going to go into rapid fire. So the idea here is I ask a question, you respond very quickly, and then we ask the next one. This isn't the long stories. All right. What surprised you most about supporting me with cancer?
How easy it was.
What workout did you think, you have to be effing kidding me?
Okay, so there are 2. For 2 different reasons.
Okay.
So early on in our CrossFit days, there was a workout called Filthy 50.
Mm-hmm.
And this goes on forever. And one of the things about our workouts that I have learned about myself, I already knew about you, like you can really tolerate a lot for a short period of time or for a certain number of things. So this is, I believe it's 10 different exercises, 50 of each. In a row. So you can't go to the next one and like take a break from this and go do that. You have to do all 50 before you can move on. I do remember it taking forever, but it was one of those kind of got over the hump of something of like, okay, like I can do this. The other one, and kind of speaks to what I get from our exercise emotionally, which is the sense of accomplishment and the holy moly, wow, like that's really cool. One of the later workouts at the last gym we went to before the pandemic, our trainer looked at us and he said, jump over that bench sideways.
I remember this.
Holding on to nothing. And I just looked at him and said, no. And it's not that it was as bad as climbing over a wall or flipping a tire or picking up a barbell that was way the heck too heavy. It was terrifying because, as you already said, I get hurt and jumping over things, I'm like, I'm going to land wrong. I'm going to catch my death. And I don't remember if it was you or if it was him, but somebody held my hands the first time and literally I jumped over and I was like, oh my God. And it kind of actually became a metaphor because, as you know, I can kind of get into tussles and not necessarily stop and disengage when I should. And it became this metaphor of like, just jump over it and move on. Just jump over it and move on. But I think he made us do it. It was 10 or 20 times. I don't know. It's terrifying. But I did it.
You did it.
Yeah.
Well, and that's kind of the mantra that I applied it to cancer was I can do anything X number of times.
Right.
Right. I can jump over it sideways. I can freeze my hands and feet, which by far was the worst.
Yeah.
I can do it this many times.
Right. But I think our crazy ass exercise regimen kind of feeds into that. I think you come by that more naturally than I do. I had learned that even with my psychology internship, like I can do that commute for a year. It's a year. Right. It's fine.
Right.
So same idea.
Okay. What was the best and worst advice you got from random people giving you advice about me when I was going through cancer?
Nobody was dumb enough to do that. So everybody knows our friendship. Right. So our friends are kind of Venn diagrams where there is a lot of overlap, but then there's a lot of disparate. And anybody who knows me, and particularly if they know us, they weren't going to advise me on you. Right. My husband didn't try it. My kids didn't try it. Your husband didn't try it. It was just, no, she knows.
Right.
Like, she'll figure it out. No.
Right.
No, I didn't get any.
Okay. Interestingly, you and I talked very openly, though, about what we needed and what I needed, and,
Right.
What you needed from me, and
Right.
And so
That's why nobody was dumb enough to advise me. Like, they knew that that's our friendship. That's what we do.
But it's a very natural to want to advise, and so I think it's important for people to realize asking someone, "What do you need?" is different than saying, "You need this." So
the one thing people did without asking is some of my closest friends, most of whom are friends of yours, informed me, did not advise me, but informed me that they were my people. So that if and when I needed something and you were in a state where you couldn't do it, or shouldn't do it, they were my people.
Right.
So it wasn't really advice, but and also in that vein, like, working out at 7 instead of 6:30 by definition meant I couldn't do things at home that I normally would have, right? So I didn't get advice. I didn't get pushback. I didn't get anything other than support from my husband and daughter, who's which I didn't ask. Right. This is what needs to happen. And this is how our friendship has always been. And it very often went the other way, where you would do something because it was what I needed, and your kids and husband didn't ask either.
Right.
It was just, this is who we are to each other. This adjustment needs to be made. So it wasn't that I didn't get advice. I don't remember anybody advising me, but I got a lot of support.
Which is fabulous.
Yeah. And I think that's, again, speaks to, if you can be open about what you're going through as a caretaker or as the patient, then there's that opportunity to be supported.
And it's a wonderful feeling to be supported. Even if you don't take advantage of the support, it's a wonderful feeling. Okay. So I love these happiness tripwires. Do you have a favorite?
Well, yeah, the end of it all. The end of it all, and wakeboarding, again, with you.
And I was given the all clear. Yep. And we went up to the lake and we took video, and I shared the video with Dr. Piper, and Dr. Piper's team was terrified. Right? You have to wait 3 months. I'm like, it's 3 months and 3 days. I've been cleared.
Because we're planners.
We're planners, and we love a calendar.
We do love a calendar.
Do love a calendar. And the best part was they had that response. I gave them a quick, I was cleared, it's fine. And then the response from Dr. Piper was just, woohoo, which was perfect.
Yep.
Her art endures. All right. Ask every guest, what's your advice for someone looking to kick cancer's ass?
Take it head on. Take it head on. Get your experts aligned. Trust your experts. I think your advice to stay off Google and the random links that people happen to send you, I think is excellent.
I think I had
advice.
to update it now, like stay off AI.
Oh, for sure.
Like,
for sure.
Go with your doctors here.
Yeah, it's bad enough when you just have random things, but when it starts making stuff up. But no, the one thing that I would advise more than anything else, and we've talked about this, life is going to have curveballs, whether it's cancer or something else. Yep. My biggest piece of advice is build community all the time.
Makes your whole life better.
From the get-go. We didn't know the first night we met and you immediately fell asleep that we were going to be this to each other.
In my defense, I was 7 months pregnant.
Me too.
And tired.
Me too.
They told us to close our eyes.
They told us to relax. They did not say go to sleep. Anyway.
That's how I relax.
I know. It's a gift. But what I would say is the most important thing is from the get-go, build community, because you don't know what you're going to need. You're going to need something. And you may need big things.
And I would think build community because your life is better with community.
100%.
Right? It's just sharing your life, laughing, show up for other people, not because you expect that they'll show up for you. Some will, some won't.
Right.
But showing up for other people, it feels great.
Yeah.
So speaking of which, we did actually have the Bye-Bye Boobies Party.
We did.
And this time I was clinically cancer-free, and it was the night before that same surgery. It just had been pushed 4 months. And so it was a lot of fun. We had a great group of people, and
We wore our T-shirts.
we did. We had T-shirts, and we should have gotten the Double Trouble T-shirts, but we wore our Team Joelle T-shirts designed by your daughter.
Yes.
And it was amazing to, instead of worrying or sitting with fear the night before my surgery, I got to be surrounded with people I love who love me, and we got to laugh and smile. I don't think we told stories about my boobs. I might have, but I don't think we let anybody else tell stories about them. But it was just a great way to build up my reserves for the surgery, and kind of gave me something to look forward to before the surgeries. We were going to have this party. And so I suggest these are happiness tripwires. Build community, let people in, ask for what you need, and keep working out.
Yep. And laughing.
Keep laughing. So thank you for everything. Thank you for being here. I hope you found this episode interesting. I hope it gave you some ideas, or maybe made you laugh, or maybe you just think we're two crazy people. If you liked it, hit subscribe. If you liked it, share it with somebody else. We want to give everybody power over their experiences when they're facing cancer or any other curveball. I'm Joelle Kaufman, and this is Kicking Cancer's Ass.